The Weeping Peninsula is an excellent place to visit at the start of an Elden Ring playthrough. It has Baba Yaga, Absent Fathers, and Death Stranding.
Like Mario in Princess Beach.
However, if you love heads, those are missing. I found myself returning to this beautiful land at the start of New Game Plus, in search of a true challenge and maybe some dark secrets. If you go up to the place where you fought Darrowil with your best friend, you can get a very good view of the Weeping Peninsula. Following a nearby path will lead you to a bridge, which is conveniently called the Bridge of Sacrifice, because your ass is getting sacrificed. Just beyond the bridge is some blind chick. Her name is Irina. She hears my loud breathing and asks if somebody is there. Irina has to do this because she is blind. She asks if she can bend my ear for a moment. This woman has escaped from a nearby castle where, according to her, the servants rebelled. Notice she chose to use the word servants. I'm getting some real slaver energy from this chick. Celebrate the blind slaver girl boss. She asks me to deliver a letter to her father who is still at the castle. Let's just say that it's a good thing she's blind, because I doubt any normal person would trust this face. Naturally, like any good postman, I immediately try to read the private letter. Fortunately, she is blind, so she cannot see me do this, even though I am right in front of her. Once you are done with Irina, you can head down this path covered in carriages and diseased misbegotten. The road eventually opens up into this small area. You can see a merchant camped out. Let me be clear, this guy is the true villain of the Weeping Peninsula. It will become obvious why in a moment. Sit down at the nearby site of grace and rest until nightfall. What on earth is that? No, not the disgusting cretin, the guy on the horse. It's a knight's cavalry. Have I finally met my match? I run, anticipating the battle to come. I make many mistakes, and he hits me many times. However, I look at my health bar and see that I am in no danger. I soon knock him off his horse and quickly finish him. This fight left me disappointed. Maybe I would find something to challenge me at Castle Morne. It's worth mentioning that for the entire fight, this guy just sat there and watched. He didn't even lift a finger to help. What if I was a new player? He would have just watched me die. What does he have to say for himself?
Trade again. Trade again. Trade again.
After destroying his stuff, I was ready to move on. On the road to the castle is a giant with a bow. Usually these guys can be really annoying, but this one has enough cover along the road to make it fairly easy. That is until you reach his gamer girl feat. He just stunlocks your ass. It dealt 0 damage.
I'm not seeing enough movement.
It's just very annoying. The very first thing you come to when you enter Castle Morne is an elevator. The next thing you see after that elevator is a massive pile of corpses. This basically tells you everything you need to know here. Can you imagine having to go up that long ass elevator over and over again to restock the castle as a slave? They didn't need to build this castle on the massive rock. It could have just been built slightly further forward. This would have made it way easier to construct. Of course, the slave Misbegotten rebelled against the inhabitants when they made such a stupid decision. The elevator was their downfall. All the corpses are piled right in front of the elevator because when they went to escape the Misbegotten, they had to pull the lever and wait for the elevator to come up. That takes time. If you head up the corpse pile, you can find an ordinary sword. It turns out that some of the soldiers are still fighting to defend the castle. They are bad at their job. I tried to help them, but I accidentally killed both of them. Such is the downside of the power of New Game Plus. Some of these Misbegotten are fairly misunderstood. Take this guy for example. He isn't hurting anyone. It looks like he's just preparing a sandwich or something. However, some of these Misbegottens are just straight up assholes. You will spend a decade thinking that they are just within range of your sword. Then a few seconds later, your face will be in range of their knife. This is where the zone gets interesting. You can go down 3 paths. Towards the sandwich guy, down to this side of grace, or down this ladder. If you go down the ladder, you will find something amazing. A wall. However, if you turn around, you will find something less interesting. Edgar. He looks kind of sad. If you cheer him up, he starts talking. Edgar just starts whining about the Misbegotten.
Foul creatures, as it said.
And true enough, they're foul inside and out.
Go off, King. If you give him Irina's letter, he thanks you for it, but says that he has to ensure that an important sword doesn't fall into the hands of the enemy. Keep this in mind, because it will be relevant later. Once you backtrack to the side of Grace, you can now proceed down the back of the castle. Down here are a bunch of prison cells that the Misbegotten repurposed. A ghost of a noble can be found in one. He whines about being eaten by the Misbegotten because it would be embarrassing. This is the endgame of cringe culture. A bit further on is a pit you can fall down which is filled with rats. Even in New Game Plus, my ass still gets beat by rats. Is this because I use grey swords, or am I just really bad at the game? I don't think I'm gonna like the answer to that question. At the back of the castle are a bunch of holes with sewage residue. A bunch of jellyfish sit in front of them. I think it's safe to say that these jellyfish are sentient blobs of human waste. That's canon. It's in the lore. As you descend the ladder to this area, your camera will perfectly frame an item in the distance. So naturally, you investigate. And naturally, you get crabbed. Here lies the beast of Castle Morne. Finally, a true challenge, befitting of a player who was on New Game Plus. I had not met my match. Now I walk soulless through the world of New Game Plus, searching for a true test of my might. This boss drops the grafted greatsword, which is what Edgar was supposed to be guarding. I travel back to him to rip his ass for dereliction of duty. He thanks me and says that he will travel to Irina to be with her for the rest of his days. What a nice, hopeful ending. Eager to see the reunion, I fast travel to Irina's side of Grace and run through the bushes to find... I don't know why, but Edgar starts crying. Many people will naturally wonder who exactly killed her. When I first did this questline, I assumed that later on maybe we would find who killed her and help Edgar get revenge. However, this isn't exactly the case. Next to her body is one of the cleavers used by the Misbegotten enemies. It's safe to assume she was just killed by a random Misbegotten. Edgar swears that he will get revenge on whoever killed her. Okay, now I know some people are going to say that this is some prepare to cry tragic story. It isn't. Edgar's daughter dying is straight up comedic. He chose to abandon his daughter to defend a powerful sword from the enemy. Usually this would be tragic and prepare to cry, but the catch is this. Edgar didn't even defend the sword. The big bad monster literally had it. Edgar was just sitting on his stupid ass bench, which was on the other side of the castle from the sword. Only when I got the sword did he go all, "Job's done." Lazy ass. Now to be honest, this is the perfect punchline for the joke that is Edgar's life. But it doesn't actually end here, neither does Irina's. Yeah, it turns out Irina survived somehow. It has to do with the character Yura. You may have met him by the seaside ruins side of Grace. He warns you about the dragon in the lake, so naturally most people will immediately go to the lake and find Agheel. I hoped I would find a foe worthy of New Game Plus, but I didn't. After slaying the dragon, you can return to Yura. He will point you towards the Dragon Communion Church, where you can exchange dragon hearts for some abilities. The weird thing about Yura is that he is supposed to introduce you to dragons and Dragon Communion, but I feel most players will completely miss this conversation. If you head to the lake from any point along the intended initial progress path, you will not find Yura and hear this conversation. In fact, I would say he is placed at the very point of the lake where nobody would ever visit. If you were to exit the lake while exploring for the first time, you would most likely head towards the Weeping Peninsula, Mistwood, or towards Stormvale. There is no reason to check out this ruin. Poor Yura. He just wanted to help us, but it turns out he is actually completely useless. Or is he? Are you ready for the Yura redemption arc? Just outside of a certain cave. You will be invaded by Bloody Finger Nerijius. He belongs to a group called the Bloody Fingers, and they basically just shove their fingers up their own until they get blood all over it. That's canon. It's in the lore. If you keep running circles around his poor swordsmanship, Yura will appear. Through the power of friendship and Halo-free sportsmanship, you will vanquish him. After this, a bit further down the river, you can find Yura again. He will explain what I just told you about the Bloody Fingers. Through this small sequence of events, you get a feeling that Yura is a friendly fella who wants the best for you. Let's just say he changes. Yura has a bit more to his questline, but that isn't as important as how how it ends. Even if you have never met Yura, you will find him towards the end of the game. Only this time, he is called Shabriri. He says that Yura died and gave Shabriri control of this body. This is probably a lie, because Yura doesn't really show any sign of allegiance to the Three Fingers and the Frenzied Flame. Yura's quest was about him hunting down his former love, Eleonora, which his armor description hints towards. It's safe to assume that some force of chaos resurrected Shabriri in Yura's body for the sole purpose of directing any potential Elden Lord to the Three Fingers. Now, how do Irina and Edgar all fit into this? Well, like Yura, Irina's body gets possessed. You can find the new Irina after the boss fight with Godric, or alternatively, if you really cannot be bothered with that whole Stormvale business, you can just ride around the entire castle. Yeah, all that time you spent failing to defeat Margit, completely unnecessary. The new Irina introduces herself as Hyetta.
My name is Hyetta. My name is Hyetta.
She does not acknowledge any of the past events at the Weeping Peninsula, so it's safe to assume that like Shabriri, Hyetta is a completely different person to Irina. Then again, maybe she doesn't want to acknowledge her past as a blind slaver girl boss, because she might assume that we are here to arrest her, put her in front of a court, and finally deliver justice for the poor misbegotten. She wants us to find her some Shabriri grapes. You can find one right behind you in the area after the Godric fight, but there are some other locations too. One of these locations is relevant to the Weeping Peninsula. To the west of Liurnia is an ugly ass shack. It's called the Revenger's Shack, and it soon becomes apparent why. Amongst the corpses of the shack, Edgar the Revenger will invade. He likes jumping attacks. He is also really bad at the game. Edgar drops one of those fancy Shabriri grapes. It's hard to know for sure why Edgar tries to kill an unassailable New Game Plus player like myself. I think we can assume that maybe he suspected us of killing Irina, or that he was driven crazy by the death of his daughter and became a cannibal. I've known people who became cannibals for much less. This guy I knew once had his entire house blown up and all of his paintings stolen. He eats people now, just when you think you know someone. Now if we return back to Hyetta, we can give her this grape. It's actually an eyeball. Now because we got this eyeball from Irina's father, and Hyetta is basically Irina, we just fed this chick her own dad's eyeball after we killed him. That is the ultimate punchline. You can find Hyetta again further into Liurnia. If you keep giving her grapes, she eventually asks you what they are.
That aside, I wonder what Shabriri grapes really are. Delectably tender and sweet, yet searing. What a sight they must be to behold.
So you can go ahead and tell her.
No. That's not possible. Not all of those people. Their own... So those noises I heard were... Sorry. I'm alright now. Don't mind me.
Now you understand why we didn't arrest her, right? This is a fitting punishment for the vast crimes against humanity that she committed as a blind slaver girl boss. Hyetta's questline is quite long, and I intend on making a video about it, so subscribe to my channel if you're interested.
I'm certain now. I will be a finger maiden.
For now though, we will return to the Weeping Peninsula. The Weeping Peninsula is home to probably the coolest location in the game, the Tower of Return. Looking at this you might think, this tower looks really boring. You are right, but you are also wrong. At a nearby church, you can find a ghost looking in the direction of the tower. He was looking for the tower so he could use it. Use it to return. You see, the reason why this tower is so cool is because it can facilitate return. When you climb the tower, take a moment to enjoy the view after killing this random guy, and then open the chest. You get hit with this dollar store fart gas. The power of that fart gas whisks you away to the faraway land of Lanedell. Now, through the lens of New Game Plus, this is not that special, but back when I had just started the game, this was amazing. When I first started playing Elden Ring, I assumed that the map would be made of 3 zones, the Limgrave Caelid area, Liurnia, and a small endgame zone which I assumed would be the capital. However, when I opened this chest on my first playthrough, it completely blew the game wide open, quite like that elevator down to Siofra River. Suddenly a massive sprawling city was before me. When I opened the map, I could see that I was stranded in this uncharted area far from home. It looked like there were probably going to be way more zones enemies than I expected. It really hammered home the vastness of this game. Of course, you can't even see the mountaintops of the giants from here, so you still didn't get a true idea of how big the game would actually be. This was the moment that really elevated Elden Ring above any of the other Dark Souls games. Just beyond the Side of Grace is a challenge truly befitting of a New Game Plus character. It's this sleeping giant. The giant isn't a boss fight or anything, but it really makes you feel like the Elden Ring. However, it can be such a pain in the ass trying to get the riposte in time, and in the end, it falls like all the other enemies in New Game Plus. I still had not found the challenge I was seeking. You can't talk about fart gas chests without discussing the most notorious fart gas chest of them all. Just past where you meet Yura is a ruin. Inside of this ruin are two basements. One contains the twin blade and the other contains a far greater treasure, fart gas. It whisks you away to a faraway location, Sellia Crystal Tunnel. The fart gas chest is quite close to the start of the game, so many new players would stumble upon it and find themselves here. The enemies in this location are quite strong for a new player. One of them literally shoots their forbidden juice at you. New players also can't fast travel out of here until they leave, so they probably got hit with a lot of forbidden juice. Then, when they do manage to leave, they get hit with that key lid. That fart gas basically throws you across the map and gets new players to explore areas they wouldn't ordinarily go to until like 20 to 30 hours into the game. In short, that is why fart gas is one of the best mechanics in Elden Ring. If you head out from the Wandering Merchant before Castle Morne, you can follow a path to climb up the nearby hill. You will come across a ruined shack and a dead body with a yellow ember on it. It was a trap. These rats boofed the designer drug that is Eye of Yellow and then set an ambush. Grown in lands afflicted by frenzy. It's used for its pain relieving properties, though it's also known to be a dangerous intoxicant. That sounds like a party. If you continue down the path, you will find more rats addicted to this terrible narcotic. It is rather tragic. If they touch you, you will even absorb some of it through your skin. Soon you will come to a village. All of the villages have fallen victim to frenzy and are doing lines of yellow. The entire settlement has been corrupted. Like any good cop, you will arrest the addicts and send them to rehab where they can rebuild their lives. You are a good person. The proximity of this village to Irina's location only further hints at how she transforms into Hyetta. There is also an Ever jail in the Weeping Peninsula. Let's just say it does not pose a challenge worthy of New Game Plus. On the west side of the region there is a small ruin. It has a bunch of annoying spammy enemies and down below, what these enemies were guarding is a dungeon, and inside that dungeon is an old friend. Hi. She enjoys making sounds. This is actually her real body, and the other her in Limgrave is just a projection. If I had to pick one small flaw from Elden Ring that really annoys me, it would probably be this. Sellen does not acknowledge you finding her real body at all until you get way further into the game. I feel like many people will assume that in order to progress her questline, they need to do something to free her, like maybe kill her imprisoned body. Around release, a lot of people made this mistake. Fortunately, I didn't, because I would never kill an NPC, even if I suspected it would solve their questline. So we gave you no choice. Turns out, he literally wanted me to unshackle his corporeal flesh by just opening the door so he could leave. I sat there, wondering if I would ever find a challenge worthy of New Game Plus. I certainly had not found this challenge in the Weeping Peninsula, but then I realized something. That challenge was not found in a battle without honor or humanity. It was found in the journey. Stopping myself from slaying the evil merchant was a challenge. Trying to not laugh at Edgar's pathetic life was a challenge. Playing Fortnite was a challenge. I was done. The challenge was the friends we made along the way. Whatever that means. So what is the deal with the Weeping Peninsula? It's actually a giant turtle. What tier would I rate it? I'm glad you asked. It is solidly A tier, but outranked by the Tower of Return. I will make more Elden Ring videos exploring things such as Hyetta's questline. So if you want to see more of that, you should subscribe to my channel. It would look great on your resume.